that. Yes,
Yeah, yeah, we can do that.
we are on live. Okay. Good evening, dear friends. We're all back together here to discuss something which is very, very important and we cannot ignore. Something that has been shoved under the carpet or something that has not been noticed by many of us. Like before the show started, I was just sharing it with Vibhuti Ji. Many of us thought, okay, we've already been looted and plundered and we've been left high and dry. And what is there for anybody to conspire against India? It is the trees that are laden with fruits that are going to be attacked. But as time passed by, I realized, and so did many of us, that yes, India is the destination still for many people who want to seek business, want to seek knowledge, want to seek riches. It is indeed a very great nation. And there is a huge conspiracy going on against India. So here we are there today to unravel those aspects of what is happening all around India. So, Vibhuti, for a long, long time, we have been hearing about these conspiracies about India, and we have just poo pooed it. It cannot happen. But then, why would anybody do it? That's what was the belief system. But as time passed, we realized no, there are lots of things, undercurrents going on there. So, you went to US in 1991, as I understand. So you must have probably felt the undercurrents quite early. So can you please share with us your story and how did you arrive at it before you went to US or after you went to US? How did it all start?
Uh, that's a great question, and you reminded me of 1991 because this is exactly the time when I arrived in the US, April of 1991. So I've just completed 30 years.
Wow. Lovely, lovely.
So
Marking 30 years.
30 years,
Yes.
and it is that moment is very dear to me because
Yeah.
when I was learning music, when I was a graduate student, BA student, I used to sing at one time very well. And
Wonderful.
so my music teacher was at home in Pune, and Mr. Marathe, I remember his name. And my mother was very keen to find out whether I was going to go abroad or not. Because my father had studied, gone to London School of Economics and all that. So she was very close to me. Of course, all mothers love their children. So she was very close to me, and she asked him, he was a palm reader. So he said,
Okay.
is he going to go abroad? And Marathe
Okay.
said, "Che che che, इसके तो हाथ में लिखा ही नहीं है." He said, exactly.
Okay.
ऐसे करके बोला उन्होंने. So
Hmm.
I said कि अगर हाथ में लिखा नहीं है, तो मैं हाथ में लकीर बना दूंगा.
Okay.
So
You
that
were determined to go.
that was the I think that was the thing which I said, and some angel said tathastu. Some atma said
Yes.
tathastu. It
Yes.
happened.
Yeah.
Many misses here and there, but it happened. So much so that our era was the time where a lot of students used to want to come to America, and they were
Yeah.
true. I applied, and my father said, "Why are you going abroad? All the great institutions are here. Why don't you study?" As an obedient son, I listened to his request. But I asked him, "You went to London, and you are not letting me go in 19, when I want to go. Why is that so?" So he said, "You are my oldest thing, and I don't want you to leave me. I want you around me." That was it. I listened to it and I came. But when America happened, 1991, he was the happiest guy. So come to the topic of this one. So this is a very important moment in my life because I came here to promote India as a business destination. And in the process, you had to address the issues that were relevant for India for the American audience. So the point which is very important to know is that it's only after coming here that I began to learn so much about India or Hinduism. Because sitting in India, we didn't care. Like you said earlier, that we are simple people, we are good people. So many people, many CEOs asked me, "Are you a Pakistani?" So I was quite taken aback by that reference. And of course, I had a lot of hair. My beard was black at that time. So I said, "No, we are the good guys." And that was the response I gave. There was a laughter, a chuckle, and then said, "Oh, why do you call yourself good guys?" I said, "Because we are." It's a very simply put because we are. No, we are not the ones who are trouble creators. But cut the story short. Our thought process is conspiracies against India. It is not because I am in America. I'm not like this because I am in America. I have been always curious, wanting to know behind the curtain what is happening. Because nothing happens today because it just felt like. Particularly the man made events, they are driven. As a student of geopolitics, I was taught, my belief became a conviction because I was told that in international relationships, if you want something to happen, you have to begin the exercise now. So everything that has to happen 10 years later, 15 years later, you have a vision of the world or the country to be like. I want to be like this, right? So you have to then begin to work. A very simple explanation for that would be that it is, say, for example, New York, it's 12 noon. If I have a 10 o'clock flight to catch today, so my entire day gets made up to ensure that I leave from home at 7 p.m. to be at the airport 8 p.m. so that I cover the time. So entire day is made to make sure that that happens. That's when you transform that entire thinking into international geopolitics, then you realize that things don't happen overnight. Even to lose weight, we have to plan in a certain time. Can I lose 40 pounds weight? Of course I can, but it won't happen tomorrow. It will take 3 months to happen, 4 months to happen, depending on what intensity you put into that. So I will recall this my during my masters that I was doing in Gokhale Institute in Pune. I read an article in Far Eastern Economic Review, a magazine that used to be published from Singapore. It's no longer in print anymore. It's gone. It's closed down long back. But remember one thing: that was the time when Indira Gandhi was alive, and she used to talk about the role of foreign hand in India. And
Exactly.
corruption
Yes.
was a global phenomenon, right? It's the global reality.
Yeah.
Both the situations, she was right. But Far Eastern Economic Review mentioned something that stuck in my mind. And that statement was that we are not, some intelligence group was saying that we are not in India as of now. But our analysis says that India is divided on so many counts that India becomes a happy hunting ground for any foreign intelligence or group to influence India because there are so many groups based on linguistic, states, and everything else. And that kind of stayed in my mind that yes, there was a challenge of Hindi imposition on Tamil Nadu, Tamil, South, North, East, West, everywhere. India was a happy hunting ground because everybody was in conflict at some point in time with somebody. And that's what happens when our ideas get tested and they go through the fire. I'll give you two simple examples. A very often talked about Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam.
Yes.
Now we say na Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam all the time, but it's a
Yes.
so much misunderstood, misapplied, misinterpreted concept that it has made us weak. And that's what you
Absolutely.
have to remember that when you talk about Kutumbakam, it could be family, it could be community, it could be society, it could be country, right? By scale of expansion, you can always say what is what, right? So if you look at this as a family, that if this is what it is, then the concept then comes about. It's not referring to family. It's talking about Vasudhaiv is an entity. A Kutumb is an entity in the sense that God created world around us. We have same sun, water, earth, right? And the life-sustaining forces that keeps us going. That's the only meaning of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, because we have the Mother Earth's resources to use.
Yes.
Sun doesn't discriminate, right? It is only the geographical angle of the country or the region that determines the weather patterns. But sun doesn't discriminate. Water is H2O all over the world. Air is same all over the world. That's the meaning of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, because when you talk about family, we completely miss the bus. The world is not a family. Families live in conflicts. You and I know this. Parents hold the family together, as many brothers or sisters you may be, but all are different. The individual differences begin to play a role in a family right from birth. Not everybody looks alike. Even identical twins don't look alike. They are the life left and the right, right? This happens. So the question is that how does family glue together? That's what is important. We have misapplied that concept completely.
Yes.
Because in family, there is enough conflict, whether for parental property or affection. It goes together. Brothers and
Yes.
brothers, sisters and sisters, they are different. We all begin to have our own families later on. So for me to expect that something will be like this, that all of us are equal, no, it doesn't happen. That's what we have to apply that concept carefully. And second one is Atithi Devo Bhava. We always say guest is God, right? We have translated it, that Atithi Devo Bhava, we have translated in English. But remember one thing, the barbarian at the gate is not a guest. We have to remember that. What we
Yes.
forgot, that even the barbarian at the gate that was coming to us, we were
Yeah.
treating them like God. We were
Yes.
treating them with concessions. We were accommodating them every sense of the term. They made
Exactly.
their home here. They looted us. They cheated us. They impoverished us. The British are particularly famous. Muslims and the Mughals came and they made it as home. Nothing like this place, a servile people,
Absolutely.
easy to rule. I would just
Yes.
stop here from the conspiracy part of it because of these two philosophies that we have. These philosophies, they are universal, they are beautiful, but our enemies exploited that. And the conspiracy to destroy India is real. It's not imagination.
Imagination.
We have to get up to understand and to use the American slang, smell the coffee.
Yes. When you were talking about Vasudeva Kudumbakam and how there are differences naturally among brothers and sisters, and there are differences and they are expressed also, how does a family stay together? That is when there is a common vision, and that vision is shared by the father and the mother to the children. That is what unites us.
Right.
So if we have such a vision and that is communicated to all the people of the country, that is when probably we'll get united. That is very important, right? But now, are we speaking as one nation, as with one voice? When is it that going to happen? That is something that we have to work for.
Mm.
Now, you were saying that conspiracies are real. Can we just elaborate on some of the conspiracies? Why are they happening? Is it for power? Is it for money? Is it for what exactly? Is it attack on culture or on all fronts? Can we discuss a few of them so that laymen like me can understand?
Okay, that's a very good, inquiry. I would put it that way. The inquiry relates to the because remember one thing, it is
Yeah.
starting from an individual at a granular level. We all want control of our existence around us. That control is the word, in my opinion.
Yes.
Power and everything else is the means to achieve control. But everything, parents want to control the family, brother wants to control the younger brother, elder sister wants to control the younger sister, and younger sister or younger brother will rebel against the older, right? That's the Vidika Vidhan, so to say, right? So what happens in the conspiracy? I don't want you to think that I'm trivializing it by discussing individuals, but that's how the global system operates.
Absolutely.
Global geopolitics has to be understood in that frame of reference. That the British wanted to control India for its resources. Some people wanted to control India to ensure that we can impose cultural influences on India. So think about it. Tamilians
Absolutely.
and Hindi speaking people fight because they both believe that others' language is ridiculous. And we settle to study even more ridiculous language called English, which has no head and tail, no logic to it, no sense to it. I have my favorite example is I do not know really why naked is pronounced as naked, but baked is pronounced as baked.
Baked.
And you can think about any number of
Yes.
English words. So if we can
Absolutely.
learn the foreign language, which was ridiculous in more ways than one, why can't we try to learn each other's language?
Absolutely.
Right? That's where the
Yes,
concept of respect comes in. So regardless of how the complicated one language is over other, but to that person who belongs to that language is the easiest thing in the world, right? So
exactly.
that's the point which I'm trying to say here is that English, Muslims, they all came to this country not because it was an incredible India tourism program. They came because India was a rich country, prosperous country, and they wanted to participate. So cultural influence was the important part, but everything surrounds around the word control. Because everybody wants to control his or her own fate. And if I want to control my own fate, then I have to make sure that you do what I want you to do. So
Absolutely.
that's what is the control is the word. So that's where whether it's a cultural influence, people want to control Hindus. People want to control that no undue influence comes on us. Control is the word, whether economic resources, cultural resources, and political environment. That's the reason for why, I think Mr. Jaishankar made a powerful statement today when, you have seen recently the formation of Quad, of Japan, India, Australia, and US to control the Indo-Pacific region. And you have Jaishankar ji today saying that we are trying to form another group with France, Australia, and India for sharing much more information, economy, culture. They mention about that shared values, comfort, and comforts at creating new combinations. He even went to the extent of saying that we will not fall for mind games. That's an important thing coming from the government of India today. You are
Yes.
seeing a transformative practices coming in place now that multilateralism and bilateralism is dead. It is a time for what is it? The word he used was plurilateralism. So we are talking about
Easy.
varieties of interests going to play, and in
Yes.
that, what is most important is that there is a conspiracy to destabilize India because it is a happy hunting ground for everybody. Religious conversion, economic resources, people power, people want to control India because we are
Yes.
the only country in the world which is neither Christian nor Islamic. And both the country, both the groups of people want to influence India to their side. And that's why the battle of conversion is big in India right now.
Yes. And like you said, we are the country who are neither Muslims nor Christians.
Right?
And we have got more maximum Hindu population. And the Hindu population is the most accepting of all the different influences. That is why it becomes very easy for them, like they have done in the past, to again do that in different other ways. Now you see that India, as far as even today, you find that the agricultural produce is so high. 58% of the population does agriculture, and agricultural commodities export is increased tremendously, even by 43%, even in this year, in spite of all these corona issues. Okay, and the 15% of it is India is among the first 15 leading topmost countries which are exporting agricultural commodities to other nations. And in March itself, to 2021, there is 58% increase in exports. And those exports are like pearls, semi-precious stones, engineering goods, satellites, nuclear reactors, so many things, pharmaceutical products, everything. So India is doing so well in spite of all these divisive forces. And India has a huge advantage that we have got so many young people. Like the census of 2011 says, okay, 30.8% of the population is less than 14-year-old. So that means they're just around 24 today in 10 years. And then 19.33% of the population were between 15 and 24 years in 2011. So today, if the census were to be taken, they are just 34, around between less than 34.
Right.
So the maximum around more than 50% of the population is young, and those people are the people who are going to be the consumers. That is why most of the nations are very, very particular that they should have trade with India. They want to monopolize Indian trade. There is so much of whatever happened during the agriculture, the farming laws, when they were to be implemented, we were wondering, why would Canada finance? That is when we realized that when the exports increased, when the exports reduced, and our imports reduced, we were importing a lot of dal from Canada. All that completely stopped. So now naturally they are upset. So Khalistan, most of the Punjabis are there. So a lot of influences have come because of these several economic reasons. It's not only about farming, but more because of the money. So unless Greta's that particular this thing had not come openly, it would have been just you'll be hearing there is international conspiracy, people are funding it, but people have not gone there and seen exactly what is happening. We were hearing that how can farmers afford this? They're having everyday night dances, DJs are coming and dancing there, they're having air conditioned tents, all those kind of things. How can they can be away from families for such a long time? So many things we heard from people who went across the borders. But then we are here in Mumbai and we can't see all these things. So we say, okay, both the time, both the sides, they have their own arguments. But unless when we saw Greta's document on the Twitter, that is when it struck us, oh God, this is the kind of conspiracy that has been going on. It is so huge. So
And that is
it
the
was
that
really
is the
shocking.
part you very rightly said. The Greta thing was, I think, was the greatest awakening moment.
Yes,
It was the greatest awakening moment to most Indians, that most of the disputes that happen, most
yeah,
of the political trouble that happens, when it becomes motivated with a vicious desire to do something, then you have to
exactly.
be careful. For example, now you realize why the particular political parties or groups of people were indulging in certain languages, because it was
Absolutely.
motivated to do that. So
Yes,
when you are having this conversation, but I come with a motive, then it becomes a challenge. I mean, let me put it this way: most majority of the Indians, most of us,
yeah,
are good people, because our
yes,
inherent principles are live and let live. So we
absolutely.
are very accepting of and respectfully accepting of everybody, but there comes a point in time that you can't go beyond. And I use that example, Atiti Devo Bhava is true, but
Right.
I'm going to draw a line that if the barbarian is at the gate who wants to cut my throat, loot my family, loot my resources, loot my income, at that time I cannot treat him as God. I have to rise, protect, and defend what the honor of the family, honor of my members, everybody else. That's what is important for India to awaken. That's the reason you find that the global call that India is a casteist country, you know, we have to rise
Yeah,
up and resist that. So how do you
absolutely.
resist that? I tell them that yes, we have a caste problem, but it's not as bad as your racism problem. And I give them modern examples that, yesterday or some time ago, the US ambassador, she's a black lady, US ambassador to United Nations, she made the statement that US is a white supremacist, racist country, right? And so I'm saying this part of the thing here, that if a US ambassador statement like that, it's for us to arise and tell US, charity begins at home.
Oh,
Fix your racism problem before you tell me what to do about my caste issue or my internal matters. This is a question of standing up. There's a phrase that we use
absolutely.
in our work is that be a stand. Be a stand. Well, that's what we are known for. That's what you are known for. So, for example, I follow sports very closely. Entire Europe and America is driven by racist slurs and attacks on black players or non white players or whatever. So I'm saying that Europe is bedeviled with racism problem, and Europeans and US Student Council in California talks about caste thing in India. I said, fix your own place first. We talked about reciprocity and respect. I'm asking all Muslims, do you have
Yeah.
respect for me, for the way I am? Or are you going to say that your rule is the only best way rule to do? I'm asking women in Muslim countries, and
Yes.
interact with them. I say that, come on, we are the only faith in the world that has had Shiva and Parvati as the true examples of gender equality. We have
Yes.
Saraswati, Lakshmi, Shakti, Durga, Kali, the forms of goddesses that we have accorded that respect to women. Yeah, forget about the modern incidences that happen from time to time. I'm not justifying any of that. But I'm
Mm.
saying that according in principle, they don't like it. And what is the conspiracy that I tell you? Is that it's not Hindu phobia. It's more than that. It's an authentic fear that with the growth of science and technology, you are beginning to see that the world is one.
Yes.
Climates are affecting everybody. What I do today, it has a chain effect on somewhere else. And in that, when we stand up, we become a threat. Our Sanatan Dharma becomes a threat, honest threat, to the organized religion, which was forever based on heaven or hell,
Force. Yeah.
or my way is the only
I
way.
do. Yes.
This conversation we must have with those people. So my favorite thing is that freedom of religion is a bogus concept. I dare to say it is a bogus concept because it has relevance in a totally different context. That Girija Ji and Vibhuti can convert to Christianity because that's the way they will go to heaven. They don't recognize that you and I have equal rights to choose
Yes.
our own path to heaven, right?
Yes.
Our own path
Yes.
to heaven, right? It's like very simple. Can I say that Tamil food, Tamil dosa is better than Kannada dosa, or Malayali puri masala is inferior to the pav bhaji of Mumbai? No, everything has its own beauty. We
Yeah.
have to learn to respect that everything is the way it is. We stand out. And because we are 1.2 billion people or 1.3 billion people, we offer opportunity for market and business.
Yes.
And that's how people want to dominate India. That if we control India, it will open the doors for our product and services. And that's the tussle between US and Russia, whether S-400 will invite sanctions from Russia, from United States, or India will be allowed to buy 7 400 S-400 for its own defense needs. So who decides my defense need? Should I decide or America or Russia decide? Who I buy from is for our for us to make that decision, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's
Absolutely.
what the conspiracy is all about, to control India. You control India, you control 1.3 billion people. You control so many profitable ventures. You control the culture. You make them like us. Like
Yes.
everybody wants to be like me.
Exactly. I was, when you were talking about this, I just remembered this double speak. When you say that, okay, you become my way or your, it's or the highway, right? And they say idol people who worship idols, they're all pagans. But if you go to a church, you do see Christ on the cross. There is idol there, but they don't call that an idol. But
Right.
whatever we have in our temples is an idol. So it is absolutely, the double talk is something which is unacceptable, and we have never questioned it. Right? People have quietly accepted it. Okay, if you say so, okay, let it be. We let people speak what they want, and we don't think that can influence more people. And probably there can be, it can turn against us. We do not realize it. We don't take it seriously. We let people say, okay, you ignore. Like you said the other day, why don't you stop other people from saying what they say? Why do you have to ignore what they're saying when they're saying something wrong? But
Right.
this is what we have been doing. This has been our culture. We've been told, okay, when somebody says something wrong and you know that is not the truth, ignore it. No, but that's not going to work now. When somebody says something wrong, and if it is not the truth, still we have got to tell them that is not the truth. We
True.
can't just accept it. That is what I'm realizing now as I listen to you often, and the various talks that are going on. And now, again, when you're talking about power, I realize that when the British people came, they took over all the temples. Now, even today, after they have left after so many years, still the temples are under the control of the government. In Tamil Nadu, now what they said, there is one temple near Tanjore, and they had appealed in the court that about 2.55 acres of that particular temple land was occupied by Muslims. Can you believe it? and they have given the names of the Muslims, the particular area that they have occupied, and today the judgment has come that the land should be released and given back to the court. Now I have given back to the temple. Now again, will they go to the Supreme Court? We do not know. But imagine that kind of occupation of any Muslim area have Hindus ever done? When you go to Varanasi, when you go to many places, we find in most of the places the temples have been completely erased and their mosques have been built, and then people are living there also around that area. But Hindus have not done it anywhere. Like you said, when you go abroad, even if they build one temple, we are happy. But when they come to our country, they erase our temples, they completely raise them, and they build mosques over it or churches over it, and we don't say a thing.
Atithi Devo Bhava is a dangerous
Oh,
concept.
exactly.
You know, it's
Yes,
you have raised a very very valid point. Something which I spoke with some of my Muslim friends actually.
yeah,
Why are you? I just asked them. Living in India, Ram Janmabhoomi, we are so tolerant and
right.
so giving in that you are almost tempted to say, "Yeah, come on, Ram kaha, wherever Ram was born, why do we have to fight? Like let that mosque be there. What the hell?" We have
What the
that attitude,
exactly?
but we
Yeah,
need to somewhere along the line begin to affirm ourselves, and this is what
absolutely.
changed my mind. This one conversation changed my perspective. I asked some of my Muslim friends here, "Why are you so committed, so driven that you will not let us build the temple, knowing full well that it was a Ram Mandir that was there?" And
Yeah,
let's forget Ram Mandir also. There
yeah.
is enough evidence of pictures that a Hindu
Archaeological survey has been done, and it has
temple
been
has been
found below.
demolished and a Muslim
Yeah,
superstructure, mosque superstructure has been put there. I say, why can't
yes,
we be generous? If you consider yourself to be Indians, you knew that your ancestors did that. Give it
yeah.
back. That's the best way
On
to
your own, exactly. Yeah,
create. That's the best way to create a bonhomie and a cordial
absolutely.
relationship that you are returning what was ours. Right?
Yes,
They said, no, we will not let it happen. Because if we let it happen in Ayodhya, you will begin to claim everything else. And I said, it is this intransigent attitude of yours that makes me a very liberal, moderate kind of a guy who is most accepting to take a hard stance. Now, the
exactly.
thing is that we won it through the court. Now, Krishna Janmabhoomi is coming up now, is happening.
Yes,
My question
yes,
is very simple. Where is the generosity and sagacity of Muslims to give back our land to us, what was
exactly.
ours? Christians are holding the largest landholder in India is a Christian church. I was astonished to read that data, that how they had become the owners of significant portions of land through church, and people put a cross and becomes a place. People put a little dargah that becomes a mosque. That
Yes,
is something which people are trying to marginalize us, and that
yes.
is what is important, that India must prevent. And there was a very famous author, a friend of mine, who wrote an article several years ago in which he said that India's Bhutto's thousand-year war has another 950 years to go. And I said to him, no, Islam won its first thousand-year war because we gave them, we
Yeah,
had
in a
to give
platter.
them, we had to give them Pakistan and Bangladesh, which are true Islamic republics already established. God knows what else do they want. Our historical places of Mahabharata, called Gandhar and others, Takshila and
Are with them.
they're all gone. It's no
Yes,
longer existing. So are
yes,
we going to end up becoming a refugee in our own homes? Because tomorrow,
exactly.
150 million Muslims decide to create their own country within Hyderabad or Bijapur or Kutch. What are we going to do about that?
Yes,
Therefore,
right.
we have to stand. The conspiracy is real. The
Yes,
geopolitical gameplay is real. It's time for us to wake up. And to put it very mildly, we have to wake up. We have to begin asking questions. We have to follow the democratic rule. We will not accept any attack, or we must not accept
yes,
any attack from any country in the world on human rights violations, because you are praying to China and you are praying to wrong countries. They are not. They are committing their own human rights violations. Why aren't you asking them? So fix
Exactly.
those. We are already democratic. We are no. We don't need lessons in democracy from anybody else. And that's very
Absolutely.
important to stand firm on the ground to take care of that. Look, we can talk about. I can give you hundreds of examples that this happened there, that happened there, but this is not the place to talk about specific issues. But it's
Yeah.
all about general understanding of the situation. That
Yes.
for the first ever time, this is the important part to remember. For the first ever time since 1947, when Prime Minister Modi came to power, there has been an Hindu resurgence. There has
Yes.
been a rise of Hindu assertiveness, not because of anything else, but because Congress party was totally anti-Hindu. Their entire policy was driven around that. So think about
Yes.
Nehru's thing. Or talk about conspiracy. A beggar nation like Pakistan is trying to dictate terms to us. I mean,
Absolutely.
why have we become like that?
Exactly.
Think about Nehru's thing. He he stopped the advancing Indian army that was throwing out the Pakistani kabilas from that place, and he stopped them. What kind of a buffoon
Would
surrenders
do
a
that.
winning position, right? What
Absolutely.
kind of?
Yes.
So Indira Gandhi, 71 war, we won, and then we gave away 96,000 prisoners and all the advantage of the war. We let Pakistan enjoy their status quo. We did not negotiate to take advantage of that. I mean, the sad part is 96,000 prisoners of wars were let go, and our soldiers who were sitting in prison, 56 prisoners, were not even brought back in return. Forget
So
about
sad.
those things. So we have to begin doing, otherwise the undoing of India
Yes.
is in
What is about the justice to our own citizens?
better toolkit. I mean, justice, for example, justice Supreme Court ruled that the 26 elements of Quran, which are so discriminatory and so vile, must be removed. The judges
Yes.
ruled, no, we don't want to touch it. What kind of mindset do we have? That if something is wrong, we are not really in a position to call it wrong? How can I have asked this question of my Muslim friends that if you use the word non-believer, I have this conversation. That's where I
Yes.
gathered the strength to express myself. I've had this
Yes.
conversation with my Christian and Muslim friends that if you say that yours is the only way, if you say that love the neighbor, but if he's a non-believer, kill him. So where does the question of non-believer comes in? I have no problem with
Exactly.
your belief. Why do you have problem about my beliefs?
Exactly.
Do not ask these questions. We are going to get crushed.
Absolutely. Absolutely. The very nature of the conversation, the very nature of the conversation becomes belligerent. Like people ask, why aren't you giving asylum to Rohingyas? But Muslim nations don't give asylum to Rohingyas, but we are supposed to give asylum to Rohingyas. Anybody who comes, India is supposed to be accepted,
Right.
but other nations are not doing it. So
Correct.
nobody questions them. Those other countries which refuse asylum, the same countries have the gall to ask us, why aren't you giving?
Right.
Right? So how is it going to impact our nation? It is for us to decide whom are we going to accept, who are we not going to accept. It is not that people who have stayed in our country or lived in our country for years, we have thrown them because they're following a different religion. Everybody has been accepted and everybody is living happily here. That is why they are here. Otherwise they would have sought asylum somewhere else and gone.
Correct. Correct.
Because people are prospering here, people from different religions, like you said, that the Muslims, the Christians hold the maximum land, and you find that in every area of life they are prospering, they're holding very high positions, whether it is Bollywood, whether it is corporate, you find that they are holding very high positions. So, as scientists, right? So they have all been given all the facilities, and people who have worked hard, they have come up their way life, and they have been given equal respect. People of the other religions have become our presidents in our country,
Yes.
but that does not happen with other nations,
Right.
right? So our country has always been accepting. People have accepted, and they've even today people worship Abdul Kalam,
Right.
right? So that is the kind of respect he has got. When we went to Rameshwaram, we went to the temple, and we also went to see Abdul Kalam's exhibition, that memorial,
Right.
right? So we do not ignore just because he belonged to a different religion, because we see what was a man about, what were the principles by which he lived. So why don't we do that? If people of different religions were to do that, where is the question of having any such discrimination? That's not happening. So you were talking about how in campuses now there is so much of animosity created against Hinduism.
Right.
Where does this come from?
See, what is happening is that campuses are very much used to liberal education. The people are from, in the US particularly, the college campuses have a very interesting, you know, frame of reference. Mostly it is international. Of course, there are local whites and blacks and everybody else, but
Right.
it's mostly international. So, there is a prevailing concept there, and I know something about it because my son went to college here. I began
Yes.
to study and analyze and understand. There was a very interesting statement made. College is the nicest time a young man or a woman has in America.
Absolutely. Yes.
Nicest time we have. You are free. You're experiencing complete freedom.
Yes.
Nobody says anything to you. You're living in a dorm. You eat, you play, you dance, you sing. Your life is completely free. Your parents are paying for it, whether from their own resources or financial arrangements. They have a real free time. And who wants that free moment to be disrupted by certain control or regulation? So liberalism comes very clearly in the minds of the children. The moment they see this particular thing play out, or Hinduism, there is definitely a bogey of people who begin to realize that these guys are good. And if they are allowed to prosper, they will control us. So now there is a fear of control. So now 18 people or 20 people or 50 people are of Indian origin in Biden administration is irritating a lot of people. For all that I know, they may be more anti-India than anything else.
Yeah.
But for the moment, they are, so they are there.
I
They are
saw.
there for merit. They are
Yeah.
not for considerations that we have to accommodate 18% or 51 people. There is no this number. So what has happened is Indians have excelled. Indians excel in this environment for the simple reason that we have that STEM mindset. Science, technology, maths, thing is there in the
Right.
brain. It's in our DNA. So we
Yes.
excel in the studies, so we are always doing well. We land the best of jobs. So
Yeah,
we
wherever we go.
wherever we go. As a
Yeah.
result of which we generate animosity amongst others. And what do we do in return? We
Give back
become
love.
accommodating of their concepts
Yes.
so that we become like them. And actually, I wrote an email to some of our Indian leadership here, first generation Indians. I said that the real tragedy is that we, the first generation Indians, are Indian born confused Desis because they came to America to make a good life and living. And in the process, we worked very hard, became Americanized, and we wanted our children to be more American than Americans, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
That's
Yes,
why they were
because there
called.
is that blend in
Yes,
that becomes so
blended.
much of
So
a
we
yes.
became, our children were known as American born confused Desis. So India born confused Desis, who are the first generations, produced American born confused Desis who ended up being Hindus in name only.
Yeah.
That's the cultural identity of Hindus in this part of the world. And majority of the young generation has no clue because we did not imbibe that culture in them. We did not tell them what is the meaning of Akshay Tritiya. That's the
Absolutely.
important part. We have certain
Yes.
remarkable scientific base to our things happening. I share
Practices.
this with
Yes.
you and with the entire audience. So I'm a follower of Transcendental Meditation. I have been doing it for the last 40 years now.
Yeah.
The important part
Wonderful.
is that I mix with Jews, blacks, Christians, every faith who are following TN.
Yeah.
You would be shocked to know that they understand the values of Akshaya Tritiya, Guru Purnima. They observe it. And I was astonished. As I speak with you, my hair is up, not on the head, but everywhere else. Hair is up, to use a proverb, that
Yeah.
they are following our cultural traditions, understanding it to the core. And that's why I salute people like Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, who spread
Yes.
the concept of consciousness,
Yes.
concept of guru. It is not, like look at the television channels here. My blood boils, and I have objected to this as well, is that when they use the word guru, pandit, mantra, now these are very important words in our Hindu pantheon, right? We have
Yes.
respect for guru, mantra, and pandits, things like that. They use it in a very smart, slanted way in make it look as an inferior. The gurus of this or pandits of this, their mantra is this, which is making us look bad. So when we talk about our guru, we begin to feel must be something wrong with us. Because CNN, MSNBC, CNBC, they are making a reference which is conditioned as why.
Yeah.
Think
We
about it.
won't call somebody Pope of something or Imam of something.
Right.
They call Guru, right? They've
Correct.
given that, and we have just kept quiet about it. Here is a comment here. While growing up, we never had differentiation between religions. We started to realize about faith and create only when we were
Past only.
taunted, ridiculed, yes,
Yeah.
ridiculed for our culture. When majority have realized this, it irks others.
It does. And Arun, you are absolutely right about that. We never, I mean, think about it. I always say this. I've told my Christian friends and Muslim friends that if you want a genuine, authentic peace, follow just one tenet of Hinduism: one, acceptance and respect. That's it. There may have been a history of some fight between the Vaishnavites and Shaivites. There is in the history. But if you look at 21st century or 20th century, in the last 2 centuries, you seldom found that the Shiva Bhakt was fighting with Ram Bhakt, or Ram Bhakt was fighting with Lakshman and Krishna Bhakt, or Krishna
No,
Bhakt.
it happened centuries ago, and till today they're
No, no.
talking about
So
that
what I'm
and saying
saying
there's a
is,
difference.
all we don't fight. There is no internecine fighting between amongst various worshippers of Hinduism. Nobody says Arya Samaj, Brahma. You may have had your struggle,
Differences long back. Yes.
but you are now in the same temple. Why can't you
Yeah,
also?
but I hear that say the other day we had Arijatya who had come from, and he was talking about there are 52 different clans, different sects in among
Yes,
Muslims, and
yes,
they do fight even today. But
yes,
for that reason, we don't put them out, put them down. We say that is amongst themselves. Why do
yes,
we care?
right.
Right? We don't tell them that why are you fighting, and we don't put them down for that. It
Yeah.
is between them. It was amongst them. How do we care? As long as they don't interfere with our life, we are okay with whatever they do amongst themselves. It is
Mm.
their differences, they have to sort it out.
They have to
We are
solve.
not talking about that, but
Yeah.
that is not what is being followed with us. That is the thing. Why do they talk about our caste system?
Because we can be controlled.
Yes,
We can be controlled.
exactly.
Use the word control. The
Yeah,
entire conspiracy is to control, religious wise, make you look ridiculous. And because I'm giving you the job, so I will control Girija Ji's and Vibhuti's destiny. That's the important part. So we have to begin to realize this element, Arun. And it's not, don't get irked. Just become inquiring. Be proud of
absolutely.
Arun. Be proud of Vibhuti. Be proud of being a Girija. That's what is
Yes,
important for us to be. And there was a very interesting element said. You are right. There are 54 sects in Islam. There are so
yeah,
many groups in Christianity. We have the same thing. And I have said this to people, is that just as we have gods, you have saints whose pictures and
exactly.
murals are drawn in the church. So what you call accusers of having too many gods is they are saints actually. That's why we have a
Exactly.
concept of calling Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi as Mahatma, as a Mahan soul. So you edified and you gave superior status to Mother Teresa. I'm not objecting to that. People pay
Yes.
respect. You light candle. The same thing we do. Why
When we
do?
go to Goa, there is Saint Francis of Assisi who is kept, and
Yeah,
people come in processions and they light candles. They do
correct,
everything,
correct.
right?
So
And
they
his
have
body
idol.
is kept over there. We don't question that. It is
Correct,
their belief, their practice.
correct,
We don't question that. We also go there and we also worship and come.
correct.
That's
And
it.
about Arun, your question on caste is very important, and that's one thing. That's one attack that happens on India. In my arguments or my discussions, I tell them that yes, caste is a thing that was introduced by the British. Just as the British were the one who called the German Hacken crews as swastik. Germans didn't call it. The British did. So here is something which I want to share with you is that my explanation to them is a casteism exists in individual life, to community life, to governments all over the world. They were totally taken aback by my statement. And I said, if you look at the Indian or the Hindu system of caste breakup, it's four, right? Brahmin, Kshatriya, Vaishyas, and Shudras, right? So these are words.
Yeah.
I told them that, look, every country has its own Brahmin, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and scheduled caste, Shudras. They say, no, we don't have it. I said, yes, you have. So I said, every country has a president, prime minister, to the lowest level of the village chief. These people, what is their job? Their job is to make rules, regulations, craft administration policies, and make sure that the administration runs well, right? I said, that's what we call Brahmins. The word given to them is Brahmins. So your president is also a Brahmin by action, by his karma, right? Everybody, from soldiers to the security guard in a bank to a security guard of an apartment complex in Mumbai, that man has a job. And that job relates to protecting the property, life, and assets or territory. They are all in a position to lose their life in trying to protect that. So they are the
Absolutely.
modern warriors. You have those people,
Kshatriyas.
they are the Kshatriyas. Then I gave the example from Bill Gates to Ambani to a Vaishali restaurant, the guy selling pan and betel nut, betel leaves. They are all into the business of trade and commerce. You have those people as well. They are the modern Vaishyas. And then who were the Shudras? They were service providers, right? Today, who are the service providers? The sanitation guy, doctors, coaches, HR people, physicians, doctors, I already said, IT services, accountants. These are service providers, travel agents. They're all service providers in any country, belong to these professions. These are the modern Shudras. So when I said this, they were totally taken aback. I'm not saying that my explanation is perhaps the best explanation, but that's the explanation I gave, and I stand by it. And I stand by it for the simple reason that now I have negated the existence of caste system the way it is. It's only when we prevent people from government to become a warrior. We say that everybody who is in the government will permanently be in government, but my son could be a great service provider in some other arena. Can I say no? Is waste management the company called Waste Management in America is a stock listed company. It's a big business. So, like I said, whether you make shoes or leather jackets, that's the service that you're providing. How can a service provider be a bad guy? What's wrong? The wrong was in India because of the British rule when we consigned people to that you cannot move
Yes.
from one occupation to another. You are condemned to
They
be
gave
what
that
you are.
surname. 1983 census, they made people write their this thing. That is
Exactly.
how they brought it. Yes, exactly.
Exactly. So that's where you
Yeah.
need to address the caste issue in a manner. Come up with something better and share with me. I'm happy to improvise on my explanation. But that's the
Exactly.
explanation I give to people that President Biden is a Brahmin. And so is the county supervisor, he's a Brahmin. Chief of army staff is a modern warrior, right? Whatever his name may be. And Bill Gates is a modern Vaishya. And waste management and service providers, the accountants, bankers, they're all service providers. We are the modern Shudras, service providers. That's the point which we have to shift the dialogue in a manner that they begin to realize that, yes, it is what it is. The bad thing that happened in India, when we consigned people to a particular group and prevented
Yes,
them from becoming what they could become. That was the
exactly.
negative, and that I blame the British and our parochial thinking in that regard, and we have to get out of that. And
And
I gave the example in my home. I said, as a family head, I'm the Brahmin. As the provider of income and economic security to the family, I'm a Vaishya. I am a Kshatriya when I have to defend the honor of my family, and services I provide because I do varieties of things for the family. I do the
absolutely,
mopping, I do the bathroom cleaning, I do it. I'm a service provider. So we are all
exactly.
everything at one time. The question is that when we in a mandate beyond a point, then that becomes a regulated issue. So this bogus. As the economic growth happens, as the Dalits and others rise up in life, becoming IT workers or whatever,
Yeah.
their life will change. That's all that
It
is there.
is. It is changing. It is
It is
changing.
changing. It is changing.
It is not as though it does not exist in other countries. There was apartheid, and
Yes,
even today there are many nations where they say the maximum number of cleaners and people who are working in that area are all black.
right,
Even now, even today. So it will take time for them to come up in their life. Even if you give them opportunities to educate themselves and come up, it will give you have to give them time. That is what is happening with India. That is what is happening with other nations as well.
right,
So when we don't point fingers, we do not let others also point fingers at us. That is something which is very important. So that
right,
one is there is a very um, very orchestrated attempt to see that there is unrest in India, like they tried to create during the farmers' protest. But by being patient, by being calm, and at the same time by protecting our rights, we have to see to it that such an unrest does not happen, so that we do not sabotage the growth of India. We do not sabotage the peace of India, and at the same time, we see to it that our rights are not impinged, and nor does somebody else come and tell us that this is what you need to do. We
right,
do what is good for our country, and we decide it, and our government decides it. Not somebody else comes and tells
right.
us. It is an elected government which has come there with majority, and we need to give. We have given those powers to that government, and that will decide. Somebody else
Absolutely,
cannot come and say, either we'll do this, either you have to accept this, or we have to just repeal the laws. We cannot say that. So we need
yeah,
to accept that. Yes, we have to
absolutely,
give that respect to that government, and we cannot allow other people to come and dictate terms to our country nor conspire. So we need to be aware of this, that there are people who are trying to sabotage our interests. There are people who are trying to conspire and see that there is unrest in the country. We have to maintain our peace. We have to maintain discipline, control, see that these religious divisive elements do not divide us, and we do not protest and do not fight with them physically, do not get violent, but at the same time, do not allow them to take over us. Do not do that. So
you are
protect
absolutely
ourselves.
right. What is going to happen? I'm telling you right now. I've said this before, and I'll say it again. Indians have to awaken, and
Yes,
for one reason: 2024 elections. The
yes,
conspiracy is real. Is that they want BJP Prime Minister Modi to go. Uh, Whether he quits on his own, having done enough work for 10 years as Prime Minister, is a different matter. Uh,
yes,
and I always believe leadership arises, somebody else will come if he chooses to go. But the efforts are on. The conspiracy to dislodge this rise of Hinduism in India right now, assertion of Hinduism is real, because any change that he will try to bring about in the country, even freeing of the
everything.
temples,
Yes,
there will be
yes,
somebody who will be unhappy. So, like in
yes,
Tamil Nadu temple, 25 people who had acquired certain portion of land, now they will
yes,
say, "Oh, he is anti-Muslim. Wo to hamara tha," right?
exactly.
So you will
Yes,
always have people who will be disgruntled. We have to
absolutely,
we have to let them know that you can't derail the process at the expense of somebody else. So
absolutely.
Muslims better become aware of this fact, live, enjoy. You have embraced India, and I'm perfectly fine with that. But I do not want you to tell me that you will block Friday prayers on the street. Which law says that? This is where the imposition has to be fought. 2024 will be the biggest election in India, in the
Yes.
sense whether Hindus will survive or not will be based on that election. If, for any reason whatsoever, if Modi and BJP are not in power, you can kiss Hinduism goodbye in India, because then you will be rolled over, literally. So we have to remember that any change that happens, the sacrifice is big. People have to realize
Exactly.
that this is for the good of the country, and Congress party must be told that Rahul Gandhi must be told that you are not fighting against the British government anymore. You are
Yes.
fighting against your own government.
Oh,
See the
people.
merit of it. They're only, what is the Congress party frustration?
Yes.
Oh, we thought about it. We put this in place, but we didn't do anything about it. And Modi
Exactly.
began to implement those things.
Yes, exactly. What they put in their election manifesto, when he implements it, they have a big problem about it.
Exactly.
And he says in the parliament, I don't want to discuss that because he has nothing to discuss.
Right. And he is indulging in the same stupid thing that in his interview with Nicholas Burns, the former ambassador of United States to India, he made the
Yes.
statement, I heard it myself, that
Mhm.
America must not remain silent on what is going on in India. And he invited him to participate in it. He wanted
Disgusting.
America to interfere. So don't take Rahul Gandhi lightly. The guy
Exactly.
is, unfortunately for him, I don't know him personally. I know only whatever his public thing is. He is nowhere near the match. He suffers severe inferiority complex within his family. Vasudev Kutumbakam ki baat hai. In his own family, he's nowhere near the personality or stature of freedom fighter like Nehru, his great grandfather. He's nowhere has the guile, the political wisdom and smarts
Charisma of
of
Indira
Indira
Gandhi.
Gandhi. He doesn't have the smarts, the personality, the charisma, the realism that Rajiv Gandhi had, in terms of
Nothing.
dealing with people.
Nowhere near it.
He's
Yeah.
nowhere near any three of them. So he fails very badly in comparison with his three parentage, and as a result
Yes.
of which he looks like Papu, acts like Papu, and behaves like Papu. Perhaps he is like one, but I will say
Yes.
only one thing: he's acting a Papu. He is much more, you know, devilish in his ways, because his views, words he says, are meant to harm and secure his
Absolutely.
position by hook or by crook. Listen, we can talk about the conspiracies. Many examples are there, but we have
Right.
to we have to rise as a community, as a nation, as a faith, and
Yes.
that's what is important. Yeah,
Absolutely. We we live in peace in our own house, and somebody comes to set fire to it, and we cannot just sit in our own glory and say, okay, everything will be fine because I have closed my eyes.
right,
We have to be aware of what is happening around us. We have to protect ourselves, and we have to safeguard people who are protecting us. It
right,
is uh, our duty as a nation to take care that our elected leaders are safe.
right.
That is also important because if something
Absolutely.
happens to them, then we go for a toss. Our nation
We
goes
go
for a
for a
toss.
toss.
It
And we
is
have
our
to remember
responsibility.
the essential lesson of Ramayana and Mahabharata. Ram and Krishna had to
Yes.
protect, had to resort to war
Yes.
to bring about victory of dharma over adharma, victim of good
Exactly.
over evil. Most of our celebrations are designed in that
All
fashion.
around that.
Role to play.
Yes.
Victory of good over
Absolutely.
evil. The time for the good in us has come to arise.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, this was a beautiful session. Thank you. So, let us close with your four words: awake, arise, assert, and act. Very, very important for all of us to do.
Yes,
Act when people talk ill of our Hindutva. Tell
correct.
them that this is not correct. At least have the courage to say that. And when people act against our own government and we know that the government is doing good for us, do not just sit watching what is going on. We are not spectators. We are participants. We are citizens of this country. We have voted for this country and we have to protect its interest,
Absolutely.
because freedom is a responsibility. It is not some pleasure that is given to you on a platter.
Right.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Girija Ji. It's always fun and
Right.
pleasure to have it. Have a conversation
Absolutely.
of this kind. Let's get out of the denial mode and recognize that the threat is real. We got to arise.
Absolutely. Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you.
Good night, dear friends.
Good night. Good night. Thank you
And
for everybody. Thank you everybody for watching and seeing it.
participating. Yes.
Yes.